A father's doubt, the DNA conflict of Jason and Susan Jason Taylor, 35 years old, lived what many would call an ordinary American life. He worked hard as a site supervisor at a construction company, paid his bills on time, and devoted himself to his family. His wife, Susan, 32, was the woman he had met in high school. Their relationship had started with young love and grew into what Jason thought was unbreakable trust. Together, they raised 3 children, Ella, Michael, and Sophie. Their family life seemed solid from the outside. Their neighbors admired how involved Jason and Susan were with their children. School events, weekend barbecues, Christmas family photos, the Taylors appeared picture perfect. But behind their closed front door, something was quietly falling apart. It wasn't one specific incident that started the doubt. It was little things. The quiet, unexplained phone calls Susan took in another room. The late nights at work that stretched later and later. The faint scent of cologne on her clothes, not Jason's. When Jason asked questions, the answers didn't always add up. And then there was the way his children looked. As the kids grew, Jason started to notice the smallest details, the shape of their faces, the curve of their smiles, the color of their hair. Doubt became an unwanted but permanent guest in his mind. It was a quiet war, Jason fighting against his own thoughts, his own instincts. But the more he tried to convince himself everything was fine, the louder the questions got. Trust gave way to arguments. The distance between husband and wife grew wider until it couldn't be ignored. One rainy afternoon, after another bitter fight in their kitchen, Susan packed a bag. Tears streamed down her face as she strapped the kids into the car and drove away. Just like that, their marriage was over. A few months later, divorce papers were signed. The court assigned primary custody of the children to Susan and ordered Jason to start paying child support. But Jason wasn't ready to let the matter go. He stood up in court that day, his voice firm but cracking at the edges. "Your Honor, I've lived in doubt for years. I've tried to convince myself those children are mine, but deep down, I believe I've been lied to. I believe my wife was unfaithful, and those kids aren't mine. I can't pay child support for children I'm not sure I fathered." Susan's response was full of raw emotion. Sitting across from him, holding back sobs, she spoke through clenched teeth and tear-filled eyes. "Jason, you're the only man I've ever been with. I've never cheated on you, not once. Those children are yours. I've spent years building a family with you. Why would I lie? I understand you're angry, but this is beyond unfair." The judge, clearly aware of the delicate and emotional nature of the situation, sat quietly for a moment before speaking. "This is a serious matter. Mr. Taylor, given your claims and the emotional weight of this situation, the court will order a DNA test for the 3 children. The results will determine legal paternity, and from there, we will address child support and custody arrangements." Jason nodded slowly, his chest tight with both relief and fear. Susan wiped her eyes, shocked that her life, her motherhood, had come to this, reduced to a genetic test. The following weeks were heavy with silence and distance. Jason avoided old friends, avoided family gatherings, and stayed away from the children entirely. Susan tried to hold her small world together, answering endless questions from the kids about why Daddy wasn't visiting, why he didn't call. Every day felt like walking through a storm, but both knew the real thunder hadn't struck yet. When the day finally came for the DNA results to be delivered, the courtroom was packed. A quiet tension filled the air. Jason sat on one side, dressed neatly in his gray suit, his face expressionless but his mind a whirlpool of emotion. Susan sat across from him, her hands clutching a crumpled tissue, her eyes darting from the door to the judge's bench, her heart pounding like a drum. The judge entered the room with a single envelope in hand. The room held its breath as he broke the seal and unfolded the paper. But as his eyes scanned the results, his face changed. The calm, professional demeanor slipped for just a moment, replaced by something that looked like disbelief. He cleared his throat and looked up slowly. "The results of the DNA test have been received," the judge began carefully, "and I want to be clear with both parties before I continue. These results are significant, and they will require this court's full attention and further action. I'm ordering both parties to prepare for a continuation hearing where the results will be fully addressed." Jason's jaw tightened. He'd spent months preparing for an answer, but now all he felt was confusion. Susan's face went pale. She sat motionless, barely breathing, staring ahead, as though her entire world had been ripped away without even hearing the words. The judge folded the paper and placed it back into the file. His voice lowered, more somber now. "Until the next hearing, I advise both parties to remain calm and consider the emotional well-being of the children involved. Sometimes the truth is not what we expect." As the gavel struck the block, the courtroom erupted into hushed whispers. Jason and Susan left without speaking a word to each other, both trapped in the same storm of uncertainty, both bracing for whatever truth lay ahead. But for now, the answer to the question that had haunted Jason for so long remained a mystery, one that would shock not only the two of them, but everyone who had followed their case. Stay tuned and comment part 2 to see this gripping story. Don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more captivating tales that are happening around the globe. To be continued.